Witchcraft questions from our community.
Hello, I'm Max Raven.
And I'm Cassandra Raven. Together we have over 30 years experience in the occult, witchcraft and magic.
We share knowledge, advice and lifestyle tips to make your magic go further and add potency to your work. Do you want to start with the first question, dear?
I'll start with the first question. So we asked our friends online, we put a public post out, and asked everybody if they had any questions about witchcraft or Kabbalah that they'd like us to address in our videos. And here are some of the questions we had. Firstly, do you become a witch or are you born a witch?
Yes. It can be either, is the honest answer. So many people nowadays like to be able to trace their lineage back to some person who was, either killed off in the witch trials or some way connected to some notable figure within it, or that the whole family was involved in a coven for many, many years. So there's to try and have some sort of validation or to add potency to what they say.
Yeah.
But some of the most powerful people out there, or the most experienced people, have come to witchcraft through chance or a bizarre change. You look at Cecil Williams, the gentleman who founded the Witchcraft Museum. It was through one, alongside many other things later on, experience with a lady during his time in the military, if I remember correctly. So there's
very often it's due to an experience or connection with someone else that raises questions for people.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, you absolutely don't need to be born into any kind of magical family or lineage. I think that goes into the realms of, it gets sort of Harry Potter-ish. It has absolutely no relevance whatsoever. Although I will say, I think if there is no knowledge or anything spoken about anything magical, including psychic abilities or including anything like that within your family, usually it's suppressed, maybe due to religion or maybe due to fear, or the fact that, you could have been persecuted, not so long ago actually.
Everything earlier than the 50s. Really.
Yeah. So often people didn't talk about it. I believe that everybody has magic in them, and I believe that everybody is able to work with magic and to use magic and to understand energy and work with energy. So I don't think for one second that you have to be born into a magical family, or you even have to have any kind of natural or gifts, natural abilities or gifts. I don't like the word gifts really. I think it's just a case of having an interest and then developing your interest into an ability, and then honing that ability so that it's something that you can do and you can practice. So to me, that kind of stuff, I think that we all have magic in us and in our histories and in our lineage. At the same time, I think anybody who's saying, oh, I'm a 6th generation, whatever, fine, if that's what they're saying, that's fine, but you don't need to have that.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately it's down to your personal actions. It doesn't matter what your great-granddad did.
Yeah.
Waving his wand around in the woods. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Is if you are not doing it yourself, then that doesn't make you a witch because your family members were a witch. It's not a lineage thing. Yeah,
it's not really. So the next question. I have heard the term white witch often as if black witches are bad. Are there different types of witches, and what types are there?
There are more types of witches now than ever before, and this may very well be to this modern day boom of interest in witchcraft through popular media, social media. It's very, very prevalent, and I have seen types of witches that I didn't think actually existing coming out of the woodwork, some very specific
they are
areas.
Which
is all great and cool and fine. But the sort of the general term, you do hear white witch banded around a lot because it seems to be the more socially acceptable one. Whereas your black witch, you'll think about someone who does solely practices and curses, malefica, the use of poisons and things like that. The most effective way I have found to practice witchcraft is to, say, walk a grey path, or to be a grey witch, which is to be in the central line, to be able to work in both sides, depending on the situation. It's a much better approach, and certainly the one that I take.
So some of the other terms that I've seen online are green witch, which refers to somebody who works with plants, and kitchen witch. So, but there are all other kinds of witches that, I don't think that any of us really fit into just one category throughout the entire course of our lives. I think we often try different things, and as time goes on, you find that, you develop other interests, or you find that you have a certain interest in a different way of working, and you should always be open-minded and always looking to develop into different ways of working anyway. So to categorize yourself so specifically and so strictly, it's fine. If you're fine with it, then it's fine, but just be open-minded and understand that later on down the line you might find that you are interested in other types of witchcraft, and a label is just a word.
Very true.
And again, going back to the fact that we're all magic, we all have it within us, and depending on your personality, it's going to manifest in a different way to the next person. Even if you say that you're both white witches or both black witches or whatever term you use, you're going to work differently to each other. So just don't worry about the labels. It's just a word.
Yeah,
that's
very true.
what I think. Okay, so I had a message. Do you believe that we are drawn to a certain path, Wiccan, pagan, or Kabbalah, or do we force ourselves to follow a faith? Is it possible to mix different beliefs, or is it better to stick to one path? I think we've just answered that in a way.
Sort of,
yeah.
But I would definitely say that yes, mixing is going to be the better bet. The further you go along on your spiritual path, the more you'll find that these threads cross over and it becomes this web of different systems.
That's true.
My first experiences with magic and witchcraft were through sort of the Norse magic, the runes. My bedroom door had runes actually put in around the door frame, using the Anglo-Saxon runes, which was very strange when I found anything else about runes, because it's a completely different rune row with different symbols, so very confusing. And tried things like chaos magic and various different things, but you develop in your own way, and you can take elements from each one. There are some elements in certain systems which work really well, are very well defined, whereas some where it's a little bit, should we say, watered down or diluted. So taking these elements and knowing what works well for you is brilliant.
That's true, and I mean, my view is slightly different to Max's, and this is why I think that we work so well together, is because my view on witchcraft and energy, I'm a catalyst. So to me, if it's not right, it's not right. It's not going to work. You can't plant an apple seed and expect an orange tree to pop up. Like, it's intent certainly isn't everything from my view.
Oh, definitely.
It's about the energy of what you're doing. It's about knowing the energy and about using the correct energy in order to manifest the goals that you want to manifest, not just wishful thinking or not just hoping it will work out. It is a case of you have to use the right things. So the way that I learned at first was traditional witchcraft. And started with traditional witchcraft at age 9, and then developed that into more of a spiritualism kind of direction, where I was communing with energies and I didn't know who I was talking to or what I was experiencing and seeing, and all of that opened up the whole spiritualism side of things for me. But then when I got to sort of 19, I started to learn Kabbalah, and I started to find information that really affected me deeply, and I felt that, I know that I've studied Kabbalah in a previous lifetime, and I'm just remembering, I'm just relearning really. And so that particular path for me isn't something that I necessarily chose. It's something that I was destined to go into in this lifetime. So I think we can pick and choose, and Kabbalah, spelt with a Q, certainly is a mixture of lots of different theories, but it's the ones that work.
Yeah.
Like, that's the important thing about it. It's, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and it doesn't get included. So, being such a vast subject as well, it's quite difficult to talk about. But
it's also quite well guarded as well, which is why I didn't quite find a way in, should we say. Lots of different systems I approached have mention to it, or they have elements that have been adopted from it. You see it in quite a few books where or quite a few history texts where they've come across and they found maybe one book relating to it. And there's elements of that they've taken, and it's been, same goes with words. Like, if you get said enough time, it changes its meaning. So it is still there. So it was something I wasn't lucky enough to get into it until I actually met you and exchanging of information. So
I think also that on a similar line to spirituality and religion, if you come from a family that's a certain religion and you're brought up in that religion, you're likely to stay in that religion. You're likely to stick with that because it's what you're grown up with and what you know. However, there are people who are brought up in a certain religion that rebel and that say, this isn't for me. Yeah. And they'll go off and find their own path and, discover their own things, or decide that they're going to be atheist or whatever they decide to do. So similarly within witchcraft, it's not necessarily cut and dry, and you have to kind of try different things to see what works for you and to see what fits you. And again, over the course of the years, you might find that you switch from one to the other, and actually there's nothing wrong with that. You have to just do what's right for you at the time. That's my opinion anyway.
Definitely. So, shall we do the...
Right, so we've got 2 more questions. We've got protection from specific energy being sent from people.
Oh, this is a fun one.
We've just done a video, which will be coming out soon, about negative energy and some ways how to protect yourself from negative energy and negative people. So the question is, am I able to actually block that energy, or can I change it so it doesn't harm me?
Both. And you can rebound it. It depends on what you want to do. There are spells and systems for this. In some places it's called blasting, and there are a few different systems you can use. Most of them are quite easy and can be made at home. You've got your classical one of smudging, which is just generally removing bad energy. You've got something called a Bagua mirror, which is placing a mirror effectively in your window. And the idea of that is a link to sympathetic magic, that you're rebounding that energy back to that person. You can do everything from like a witch bottle, which sort of works on the sympathetic link between the practitioner and the person being affected by the energy. There's so many different things you can do, and it really depends on how you want to work with it. You can just work with your own energy as well. So, the thing about energy is that you're creating it, and it's an actual tangible thing. And I really love some of the exercises that we did in the classes that I used to teach groups, and it was really, really amazing to get somebody to stand at the other side of the room with their back to us, and for us to throw energy their way, not negative energy of course, but just to throw a ball of energy their way, and for them to signal when they can feel it. And sometimes you'd stand there for ages and nobody's throwing anything, nobody's sending anything, and the person would not put their hand up, and then until you throw that energy, and then suddenly they say, I've just been hit by energy. So I think, again, everybody can feel energy. Yeah, it's reworking on it. Well, should we say reworking? It's learning to feel it again, being more sensitive to it. Being aware of the energy is the main thing, I think. And if you're getting negative energy from a particular person, absolutely, you can put your own barriers up. You can visualize your own barriers. You can visualize yourself being safe, perhaps wearing armor or with a brick wall around you, or behind castle gates, or whatever visualization works for you. Certainly you can do that, but then also sending back that energy is another thing. If you wish to counterblast and send it back, then absolutely. So you can block it, and you can change it. You can transmute that energy. You can actually send it down into the earth again, ready for recycling, basically, and for somebody else to use. Because even negative energy is a lesson for people. So, if you're experiencing negative energy, and if you're getting negative energy sent to you, feel free to send it back into the earth, because all energy is reusable, and it is all an experience that is valid. There's a whole thing about protection as well. There's lots of things you can do for protection. Yeah. Amulets,
sigils. You can use all kinds of things. You can put salt around your home. There's so many different things you can do.
This is one of the main ideas in witchcraft. There is a whole system of against bad or black witchcraft. So without going too deep down that rabbit hole, should we move on?
Yes, let's move on. Okay,